Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mer Herosner Podcast Season 3, Episode 2. It's September 29th, 2022. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. I'm your host, Vic and Mike, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, the talented Mr. Mike Galichian, where we discuss our great Armenian history, covering different eras, topics, and people. We have a special guest joining us tonight, all the way from Armenia, cartographer Rouben Galichian, and our topic is Armenian historical maps. So he'll be joining us shortly. How are you, Mr. Balian?
I'm good. You already had a slip of the tongue that quick, huh?
Well,
How excited are you?
Huh? I'm rusty. We're getting back.
Rusty. I don't know. I think you're pretty excited. I know I am. Maps.
If you guys missed our last episode, which was the first episode back, make sure you go back and watch it with Yerishe Azarian from People of R. It
Great
was a
conversation.
Great show. Yeah.
Great conversation.
So we had some difficulties, technical difficulties. We made it work.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
As always, before we bring on our guest, I want to mention a couple of announcements. Everybody in the LA area this Sunday, October 2nd, the Desire to Live film by Mariam Avetisian will be showing at 12 noon in Glendale for the Glendale International Film Festival at the Lemley Theater in Glendale. This film has won 135 festival awards. And check this out. The last one was at the Istanbul Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is that?
Yeah. Well, still a big community there.
Yeah. The Desire to Live is a feature documentary detailing the stories of the survivors of the war in 2020 in the Republic of Artsakh. We're lucky enough to give away 20 tickets to everyone who is joining us tonight or will be listening. If you are in the LA and surrounding areas and you would like to attend, message us on Instagram with your name and phone number or email us at pod@medherosner.com. If you're not following us on Instagram, make sure it's basically at Mer Herosner. Very simple. Yeah. It will be first come, first serve, and we're limiting 2 tickets per person. If you need more, maybe we'll work out a deal. But please, only if you're serious, because these tickets have been paid for, so we don't want them to go to waste.
Yeah.
So if you are really interested, please contact us, and we'll get you those tickets. Again, this is this Sunday, October 2nd at 12 noon at the Lemley Theater in Glendale. It's a great film. Everybody should go see it. Besides that, the other announcement I want to make is the No Men Left Behind second annual gala, which will take place Friday, October 14th, 6:30 p.m. at the Tagalian Cultural Complex. We encourage everybody to support by donating and attending. Basically, when you donate, you get a ticket. For more information on tickets, questions, if you want to be sponsor, there's sponsorship opportunities. Go to cftjustice.org or email info@cftjustice.org. A master of ceremonies will be Alina Abovian from KTLA 5 News here in the Los Angeles area. So everybody, please go support. Even if you can't make it, go donate. Help. This is a great cause. They're doing some amazing work. Yeah. These are a group of lawyers who came together, and they are basically going towards the international court for the war crimes, basically by Azerbaijan during the war and still now. So that's pretty much it as far as announcement. And
big things going on.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone who's joining us. Again, it's not our typical hour, but the reason we do this is because our guest is from Armenia, and he has woken up really early to join us.
The wizard says hello from
Yerevan. Oh, yeah. There you go. So Rouben Galichian is an independent London-based scholar and researcher specializing in historical maps of Armenia and the South Caucasus region. He has published many books and articles on the history of cartography of the Caucasus. His first book, entitled Historic Maps of Armenia, The Cartography Heritage, in 2004, which presents a collection of world maps and maps of the Caucasus over a period of 2,600 years, became a bestseller in 2005. His articles have appeared in various cartography magazines, journals, and basically one of them is Imago Mundi and the IMCOS journal. He has lectured extensively in Armenia, USA, Iran, and UK and France. So everybody, welcome Rouben Galichian. Hello, Rouben.
Hi, Rouben.
Hello. Good morning.
How are you today, sir? Good morning to you.
Good evening to you.
Thank you.
We're a little behind, as usual.
We want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. As we cover so many historical events and periods with our podcast, we find it fit that someone like yourself should teach us about the historical maps, because when we talk about these eras and the stories we tell, it's hard for people to visualize where all this is happening, especially Armenia historically being the theater of war for many other empires.
Yes.
So it's a privilege to have you on our show, and we are grateful and thankful. So
thank you for inviting me to the show. First of all, I'm not going to lecture anybody about anything. I'm going to share the knowledge that I have with others who participate in this meeting. So perhaps I should say a few words about myself.
I was actually going to ask you if you can introduce to people who might not know about you, where you were born, where you grew up, and most, I think especially how you got into cartography. Like what made you get into this field?
I was born in the city of Tabriz in northwestern Iran. We moved out from Tabriz when I was 12 years old. We moved to Tehran, and I did my schooling there. When I finished school, I had a scholarship from the oil company to study in England. So I went to England and graduated from Aston University in Birmingham in electronics engineering, which has nothing to do with cartography.
Yeah.
But from my childhood, I was interested in maps, and I remember during the last days of the World War II, on our wall there was a large map of Europe and Asia and North Africa. My father used to follow the front line, what's happening, etc., putting some pins on the map. And I used to sit down and copy that map on a piece of paper. So it started from there, and the geography was one of my top interest subjects in the school. I used to continue copying maps of different sorts. We had a 19th century German atlas. So I used to copy maps from there. Anyway, until I returned to Iran and worked in Iran for 15 years. When after the Iranian Revolution, after a year after the revolution, I was invited to work in a British company in England. I went there temporarily for about 6 months, but war started, Iran-Iraq, and we stayed there for 30 years.
Wow.
Anyway, during that time, I had the chance of seeing old maps from up close. The British Library, which was I'm a member of, has 4 million maps. So you can imagine time spent. I used to spend my 3-4 days a week in the British Library studying all these maps.
Now, did you get to see all 4 million of them?
Hardly.
I'm just kidding.
I saw a few thousand.
A few thousand. Okay.
Wow.
So anyway, until my friend of mine, we were talking about maps, etc. I said, looked at the maps that I was showing him, said, they're very nice. Why don't you publish something? So in 2001, there was a calendar published by a bank in Armenia, which had 12 of these maps on it, which looked very beautiful because their old maps are works of art, most of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, took from there, and then when I started reading about Azerbaijan's claims on Armenian land, etc., and I thought that I should publish a book about the historic maps of Armenia, because when you publish about the historic maps of Armenia for 2,600 years, in the region, you see there is no Azerbaijan north of Arax River ever until 1918. Yep. So this book was the beginning of my work. So from then on, I have continued, and the ninth book was recently published. And my books are published. I write it first in English, translated to Armenian, then some have been translated to Russian, 3 in Persian, 1 even in Turkish, historic maps of Armenia. A bridge version was published in Istanbul 3 years ago.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
My interest in mapping in the 1970s, when I was working in Iran, I started getting interested in old maps and getting old versions. I used to come to England to participate in auctions, and there started my collection of old maps, which over 300 maps and atlases, oldest dating from the 15th century, which I donated a few years back to Matena Darani in Yerevan, so that everybody got access to it.
Oh, okay.
This is the history of my interest in maps, and naturally, when I you want to study maps, you want to study old geography, and in the old days, geography, history were one subject. Referred in each book contained details about geography and history of the
history.
Yeah. Like they come hand in hand.
I was dragged into the history as well. I'm not a historian, but I'm aware of the history of particularly Southern Caucasus, what has been happening, and particularly now after the 1918 independence of these 3 countries there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're dealing with maps and studying maps, especially going back, I mean, you're automatically going to learn history. So, not all historians. I mean, we've come across people who are not historians, but the wealth of knowledge they have by just the research they've done is amazing. So,
Rouben, I'm sure you've been asked how certain borders have changed or what events may have led to certain borders being shifted and moved, so you have to have like a firm understanding to an extent, maybe not as much as a real historian, but to answer some of these questions, I'm sure.
Yeah,
of course I have this. In this presentation, I will first refer to Armenia and historically speaking, the region of Armenia in old maps up to the 1918, and from 1918 onwards, the second part of the talk would be about the Armenian republics of Armenia and the borders and how they have changed, why they have changed.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know you shared some slides with us, which we'll bring on the screen to kind of for you to present your knowledge and everything you know about these maps, going all the way back to pretty much the beginning, as early as anything that was mentioned as far as Armenia.
Since we're on this topic, a good question would be is where do you find or where was found, let's say, the first evidence of Armenian or people of Armenia on any sort of map? If your research or studies have gone back this far.
Yes, I have gone back as far as possible. And the first real inscribed mention about Armenia is on the first slide.
Yep.
Okay.
On the bottom left, you can see the Behistun inscriptions in Iran near Kermanshah. And this is an inscription in cuneiform inscription in 3 languages, Elamite, Old Persian, and Babylonian. And the size of this inscription is 25 meters wide and 15 meters high. And it's inscribed on a rock face 100 meters above the ground level. So it's hardly accessible to anyone. Therefore, it had been preserved mostly, except for the weather damage. Anyway, it says here, this is inscribed by Darius the Great, Iranian king of kings. And he says, he writes about his conquered territories, his relationships with neighbors, etc. And in one part, he refers to the history of 521 BC, writing that in the neighboring Armenia, there were some problems, and I sent my Armenian general Dadarshi to oversee, to see what's happening. This is written in 3 languages, as I said. In Elamite, it says the name of the country is referred to is Armenia. In Persian, it is Armenia, which is still used today. And in Babylonian language, it says Urartu. So these three terms are the synonyms. Like in Germany, the French say it Allemagne, the Germans say themselves say Deutschland, we say Germany. It's
Yeah.
referred to the same country. Therefore, Urartu, when it refers to Urartu, it means Armenia. On the next slide, if we can see, this is the oldest existing world map. This is a small clay tablet found in Babylon, from Babylon, about 5 inches by 3.5 inches. And it says the circle there shows the center of the world. And in there are some cities and 3 countries. Sorry. On the right-hand side, it's the transcription of the German specialist of the text on that map, on the circular map. In the center, there are 3 countries mentioned: Babylon, Assyria, and Armenia. This dates from 6th century BC.
Incredible.
When I found this map, I immediately started thinking of when somebody that doesn't know anything about Armenia or Armenians asked us, how can you describe your country? What's the quickest one sentence? So we almost always refer to answer that saying that we were the first country that accepted Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the questioner is a Jew, is a Hindu, is a Chinese, is a Muslim, what does he care if we're the first or the last country to accept Christianity?
Good point. It's
Exactly.
a very good point.
Our claim should be we are one of the 3 countries appearing in the center of the world on the oldest world map, and the other 2 do not exist anymore.
Yeah. This is the only map that there's nothing before this, right?
That
This is
makes me
the
feel good.
oldest
It's
map ever.
Nothing so far map found older than this. There are some maps that refer local small areas of the Nile, land, plots of land, etc. But as a map, worldwide map, large map, center of the world, this is the oldest that exists, and it's kept in the British Museum.
Okay.
Wow.
So if you go to the next slide, we go to about 450 BC. This is a map called the Herodotus, inscriptions of Herodotus. And Herodotus wrote a history, and he is considered as the forefather of the historians, historiography.
Yeah.
And in there, he refers a number of places to Armenia, and the 2 countries that I've underlined red. On the top is Armenia, and the below is Persia, Parthia. These are the 2 countries that appear on this map and still exist today, which will be proven on the next slide that we can see from close by.
Yes.
See, this is the region that Armenia existed, Asia Minor, which is today partially Turkey, and etc. And there are many countries: Mesopotamia, Assyria, Media, Armenia, Cappadocia, Phrygia, Phrygia, Lydia, etc., etc. From all these countries, only 2 exist today: Armenia and Media, which is part of the Persian Empire.
Yeah. That's true.
The others have disappeared, leaving only stone monuments, etc. On the next slide, if you go to the next one, it shows the area as it stands today.
No.
On the left is Turkey, which first time in the map appeared in the 14th, 15th centuries. That's 2,000 years after the name of Armenia appeared on the map. On the north is Georgia, today's Georgia. Georgia existed long before as a part of Iberia, etc., but there were different kingdoms: Kakheta, Migrelia, Iberia, Abkhazia, etc. During the 11th century came together and formed the country as we know as Georgia today. So they go back a long way, but as a unified country, it was 11th century. It lives at the bottom with Iran, Islamic Republic of Iran today, and the yellow center in the center, Armenia, which have appeared on maps continuously for 2,600 years. On our right, in the east, is the Republic of Azerbaijan, which first time on maps appeared in 1918.
Mhm.
So some of the brandies sold in the old brandies sold in the shops in Armenia are older than Azerbaijan.
We have so many jokes as far as how old Azerbaijan is.
Anyway, but they claim to
Good
be a
reference.
country which is 3,000 years old, and they come up with all sorts of inventions, etc., to prove that.
Yeah.
Let's
We've seen them
continue.
all. All right.
We've heard about the Tigranes the Great, Tigranes and Tigran, about the king of Armenia just before our era, that occupied from sea to sea. Here in the center, in the yellow, is the kingdom that Tigran conquered. It extends from the Caspian to the Mediterranean Sea, includes Lebanon, etc., as parts of Syria, and all the countries around. But it didn't last very long because the Roman Empire saw Tigran as a threat, and they unified and pushed Tigran back to the historic Armenia, which is the top part of this yellow area in the region. This was done in the first century BC, before our era.
Yeah, we've talked
again,
about all this. We did an extensive 2 episodes on Tigran the Great and everything that happened. So those of you who haven't heard it, go listen to it. It's amazing.
Actually, 2 great episodes to listen to, guys.
Yeah.
So next slide. In here, we've heard of Strabo, the founder of geography, and he's got a 17-volume book called Geographia. In there, he allocates in 60 pages to Lesser Armenia and Greater Armenians, both historically and geographically. This is a map drawn according to his descriptions, the world map by
Strabo.
It's according to Strabo. Yeah.
Now, when was this map created?
It was created during the 19th century from the writings of Strabo.
From the writings, okay.
Many historians created maps, and according to his writing, and most of them are very similar to this. This is done by Charles Miller.
Okay.
So interesting. This is the way they viewed the known world at the time.
Yeah. Also, no, there's no Azerbaijan there, because the name Azerbaijan even didn't appear there until later on. And let's go to the next slide. Now, this is part of a world map by Greek geographer and cartographer Ptolemy, Claudius Ptolemaeus, who was heading the Library of Alexandria, which was the largest library at the time. Here, on the right, in the center on the right, you see Hyrcanian or Caspian. It means the Caspian Sea. On the left is the Black Sea. And between those two, we see 2 areas underlined red. Armenia Major, the Greater Armenia, and to the left of the Euphrates River, Armenia Minor, Lesser Armenia.
Yeah.
This dates from the 2nd century AD, our era, this map. It's part of it's included in the book of Ptolemaeus, who produced the called Cosmographia or Geographia again. And this book contains instructions how to measure land, how to make, draw maps, etc. That includes 8,000 place names in the world, known world there, which didn't include Americas. In the 8,000 names, 170 are dedicated to Armenia.
Wow, that's fascinating.
There's no Azerbaijan there. There's only Caucasian Albania, the area of which Azerbaijan occupies today.
Yeah.
Here on the right, this Albania you can see underlined blue, and the light green underlining, it says Media, which is part of the Persian Empire.
Yes.
Next slide. This is a Christian map, 1/4 of a Christian map showing the world. The world was shown as a circular flat disk. And on the top was east, because they said it's according to religious dogma. In the east, and sun rises from the east, and the terrestrial paradise in the east. So Christian maps of the Middle Ages had north, not instead of north at the top, they had east at the top.
That's interesting.
And the square you see on top is named Paradisus, the paradise, and the 4 rivers flowing out of it. On the left of the map, there's an there's a name underlined red. It says Armenia, between the Caucasus and Taurus Mountains, which are green blobs there on the map. And the images that you see are the apostles who traveled to these areas to take Christianity to different parts of the world. These maps date from the 6th century to the 8th century, and is made by a monk called Beatus de Libena, from a Spanish monk.
Wow.
Next
So
one.
interesting.
Here is an Islamic world map. The world is a circular. In Islamic cartography, they still use the spherical world, not the flat disk like in the Christian ones. And it's from the 10th century. The earth is surrounded by the 4 elements of the Greek mythology: earth, air, fire, and water. And in the Islamic mapping, south is taken at the top most of the time. Here, south is at the top, and the lip-shaped red area on the upper part of what are the mountains of Moon, where the Nile has its sources from, and the sources are shown with the 5 green lines, the sources of Nile, continuing down and flowing into the Mediterranean. Bottom part, there's also sea of the Black Sea, which is at the end of a circular line, ending with a white circle in the middle. And the name of Armenia is underlined red in Persian. It says Armenia, south of the Black Sea, near the Caucasus. Here again, Azerbaijan is not mentioned north of the Arax River.
And again, this was 10th century.
10th century, yes.
10th century, yeah.
The next map is also Islamic map. This Islamic cartography map, geography contained, developed in the school of Balkh. And normally these books have about 27 maps of the various regions of the world, and 1 world map. And the world map you saw on the previous slide, and this is the map of the South Caucasus. It's in Persian. It's again from the 10th century. It's made by Ibn Hawkal, another Muslim cartographer. And the green on the mass on the right is the Caspian Sea, and 2 lines flowing into it. On the top is the river Kura, on the bottom is the river Araxes. And you see at the lower part of the map, it says there's one Azerbaijan south of the Iranian, the Arax River, which is the Iranian province of Azerbaijan.
Yes.
And to its left, there's Armenia with the red masses, 2 masses next to it. The mount, it's called Mounts Ararat, large and small. The 2 more. Then on the north of the Arax River, there's Albania, which is the Caucasian Albania, nothing to do with present-day Albania.
Yeah.
And these are generally the way that Islamic maps are presented. Normally, in the world map, on the Islamic maps, there's all countries mentioned. So even from Scythia, which was the old Russia, and going to Europe, to Germany, France, etc. But on the detailed maps, they refer only to Islamic countries. In the Ibn Mas'udi, in his book, in the beginning, when he goes into these detailed maps, he says, we have included only the maps of the believers, lands of believers. we don't have waste time on the lands of the non-believers, which it means that only we are showing Muslim maps. But on the Muslim maps, there's one map which is, well, this one is the South Caucasus. There's a non-Muslim country, Armenia.
Armenia,
And it
yeah.
describes why they have included these maps in their maps,
Bring us into the screen so they can see us.
The reason is that Armenia had close ties with Azerbaijan and Iran, commercial ties. Therefore, we include them in the Islamic country map.
Okay.
This is very interesting. It goes on describing the cities of Armenia, etc., etc.
Wow.
Next one. Here is a typical Christian map of the world. Again, circular, flat circle. And these maps are called TO maps. O is the circle with the node, and the letter T is a water expanses that divide the world into the different continents. The vertical one is the Mediterranean. On the left is the river Don in Russia. On the right is river Nile in Egypt. Above that, half of the map on the top part is Asia, with lots of countries. In Europe, on the bottom left, there are also a number of countries, but on the right, Africa was not yet explored, so there's nothing in Africa mentioned.
Yeah.
But in Asia, there are this map dates from the time of the Crusades, 11th century, 12th century. And there are two Armenians mentioned there. One is the Greater Armenia, with the light blue pointer at the top. And the other one is next to the Mediterranean. It's a Cilician Armenia. Armenian Kingdom of Cilicia, which existed on the shore of the Mediterranean Sea from the 10th to the 14th centuries.
Yeah,
so this it's a French map. The French had close ties with the Armenian merchants, therefore they show it in their maps. Next one.
Okay.
This is a map, part of a map made by an Italian Venetian monk called Fra Mauro. And the names that appear in red all say Armenia. On the right-hand corner of the map, the little bit of blue you see is the corner of the Mediterranean. In this map, south is at top, first I forgot to mention. That is the Mediterranean Kingdom of Armenia. And there is one large Armenia on the left, land of Armenia, and then regions of Armenia underlined red again. There is one area underlined blue, which is Arka Noe, Noah's Ark. It's a mountain with a little house sitting on it. That's the Mount Ararat, and the house is the Noah's Ark that sits on top of the Ararat Mountains.
Wow.
Below it on the left, there's a name underlined green, which says Mountains of Karabakh. This is the first time that in any European map, the name of Karabakh appears.
This is in 1460.
1460, yes.
Wow.
Again, there's no Azerbaijan. There's also Iran, which is the Persian, Albania, which is the Latin name for the region of the ex-Albania. So, 1460, first time Karabakh appeared. Next
now,
map.
Karabakh, is it because it was by the Persians called it Karabakh, or was it like, why was it named Karabakh?
The language spoken in that area, we're going sideways. Additional information. The language spoken today in the Persian Azerbaijan and in Turkish Republic of Azerbaijan is Turkish. But in Iran, until the 15th century, 16th century, Iranian Azerbaijan, with the Armenians called Aterpatakan, south of the Arab Sea. The language spoken was a Pahlavi dialect until the 15th, 16th century. That Pahlavi dialect was the real Azeri language. The one that Mr. Aliyev calls Azeri Turk language today his country's language. It's not Azeri, it's Turkish that they speak. Azeri is the old language that existed at the time, but since the region was ruled for a few hundred years by Muslim hordes from Central Asia, etc., who became Muslim later on, and they were speaking a Turkic language like Karakoyunlu, Akkoyunlu, etc. The population did not, the language spoken by population was not a written language. It was an oral passed from mouth to mouth. And gradually during 15th, 16th century, they changed their language into the language of the rulers. In other words, this Azeri language was forgotten and was replaced by the Turkish language. Now, in Iran, there are still a few villages that speak the old language, which that disappeared about 16th, 17th century. But it is important to note that the prefix kara in today's Turkish means black.
Yeah.
But in old Azeri language, it meant large. Karabakh is not a black garden, it's a large garden. The Iranian Karabakh, which is south of the Arax River, is not a black mountain, it's a large mountain. The St. Thaddeus Monastery near northwestern Iran in Azerbaijan, the locals called it Kara Kilisa, literally today's language, black church. It is constructed of white marble, but it's the largest complex, religious complex of the area. Therefore, Kara Kilisa, large church. Karasu is the widest river in Azerbaijan, not black water. Large water.
Large water.
In Tabriz, when I was born, I remember there was a tree that 5-6 people had to hold hands to circle it. They said it's about 800 years old, 700-800 years old. They used to call it Kara Ağaç. Ağaç is in Turkish means tree. Kara, today's Turkish, black. But on Turkish, large tree.
Large
tree.
So this is the source of the Karabakh, then word Kara. Karabakh, large garden, because it's all green, lush green area. If you've been there, you've seen it.
So they don't even know the real meaning of calling it black.
No, but even Armenians today are still saying that even the word or whatever means black. There's your answer.
There's nobody pays any attention to number of Iranian scholars that have written on the subject that this is Kara is not black, it's large. Nobody pays any attention because the name is there already.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories about the reason why it was called black, because the soil is really rich and dark and all these anecdotes, I guess.
Yeah, the anecdotes, exactly.
They are anecdotes because, but Karasu, water cannot be black, can it?
No.
So it's large water, not black water.
Yeah.
And also the Black Sea. You know what the old Latin name was? Mare Magnum. The Black Sea, in no old Latin name for it was Mare Magnum, means large sea. And it was translated into the Black Sea by the Turks. And we continue it. And the name has...
I mean,
that crossed my mind when we were talking a little bit
I guess genetically all they see is black, so
it's called Mare Magnu? Magnum, okay. Magnum, okay.
Magnum, yeah.
Okay. So interesting. Wow.
Awesome.
Well, we just debunked the whole Karabakh thing. So
cool.
That's amazing.
Let's go back to maps.
All right. So next slide.
Here is the...
sorry, let me go back. I skipped.
Here's the oldest globe in existence in the world. This is made in 1492. Therefore, there is no America on it. It excludes America, but the world is shown as a globe. And on the right-hand side, the enlarged part of each circled in red is the Mount Ararat with Noah's Ark sitting on it. And at the bottom says Armenia. This is 1492.
Christopher Columbus era.
Yeah, before Christus was Columbus era. Sorry, you don't exist on this one.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm just hence why I did the quotations.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is the work of one of the most famous, the Dutch cartographers, Abraham Ortelius. In 1595, he drew a small world map and then enlarged it to a larger scale of a version of it. But on this one, you see the Antarctica. The Antarctica is enlarged, covers half of the world.
Yeah,
Alaska
literally.
is so huge that you cannot imagine Alaska. And Australia doesn't exist yet. It wasn't discovered yet. So the details of the region of the Caucasus are enlarged at the bottom right. There, between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea, you see Armenia. And below, right in the green area, you see Persia. And below Armenia, between to the left, there is a Soria, which is Syria.
Syria.
And region of Turkey is called Anatolia. Anatolia was the name of the peninsula given by the Byzantine Greeks, Byzantines. So there's no Turkey there even. So there's, in addition to the Armenia, there are a number of cities, etc., Iranian cities and Middle Eastern cities, but there's no Azerbaijan. There's nothing of the sort.
And
so
this is 16th century.
Yeah, end of 16th century.
Yeah. I'd love to ask you some non-Armenian related questions, but not now. It'll go off on a tangent, but maybe later.
Yeah, well, sure. Go on. Next one. You see, we know that Armenia as an independent country did not exist for about 600 years or so. And this is the map that's done during that time, 1718, the beginning of the 18th century. The Persian Empire in yellow, Ottoman Empire in pink, etc., and the Russian Empire in red on the top. The name of Armenia appears beginning from the Ottoman Empire, Armenia Mayor. You can see in the center of the map, Greater Armenia. It appears on the maps. Why? In the old days, before the 15th century, there were no borders generally shown on maps. And the areas that the maps showed were named with the names of the people who lived in it. For instance, region of where Armenian lives was named Armenia, where Persians lived was Parthia or Persia or Media, when wherever the Assyrians lived was Assyria, etc. Here, it indicates the name extending over Ottoman, the Persian, and the Russian empires, means that Armenians live here.
Rouben, I have a question concerning this. Now, back then, let's say as things kind of advanced in, let's say, the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th century, as we're seeing now, cartographers, how did they determine, like you just said, the people who populated a particular area, but how did they determine, let's say, these border lines on the maps? Was it based off of geographic landmarks,
ranges or something,
or rivers, as we know typically happens, or did they physically go see it, or did they have people who had physically seen some sort of separation? I know it sounds a little bit of a childish question, but I've always wondered.
It isn't childish at all. You're quite right. Some of the geographers, old-time geographers, Ptolemy, for instance, traveled widely in the Middle East, but not all over the world. Other geographers like Arab Abul Fada, he traveled all over the Middle East. He produced maps, etc. And in Europe, map makers were basing their information on travelers or merchants that traveled from China to Europe, etc., describing on the way, and after one day's travel, we reached from that city to the other city, etc.
Oh, interesting. So they were the GPS. They were like the human GPS system of today. Yeah.
All information on maps was based on that. Therefore, one after original map was made, then there's somebody has traveled somewhere that you extended their travels, so they added that information on the existing maps. Next,
That's so cool.
Cartographer added the information. Therefore, here you see, for instance, the Caspian Sea. It's almost circular. It's the wrong shape.
Yeah, it's completely the wrong shape in comparison to today's maps. Yeah,
that wrong shape continued until 1730 because nobody had traveled around the whole of the Caspian to find out what it looks like.
Yeah, the Google cars back then didn't reach there.
And then in 1720s, Peter the Great called the French cartographers to go and draw the map of the Caspian Sea. And from then on, we have the real map of the Caspian Sea. So this is maps are updated, corrected, additional information included over the thousands and thousands of years.
That's so cool.
That's so interesting that in 1718 they still hadn't gone to the upper side of the Caspian Sea to kind of.
They had, but they had traveled all around it to find out what it looks like.
Yeah.
One important travel map source was in the Mediterranean, at least, was where the local fishermen and local traders would travel from port to port. In the old maps, there is called portolan maps, in other words, seafaring maps. You see all the details on the coast, but nothing inland. So the Mediterranean was drawn in detail from the beginning of era by Greek travelers, the Greek captains of the ships that traveled the area. They did make their own maps because it was important for them to find out where the river ends and where are the obstacles under the sea, etc. And those maps are the most detailed for the Mediterranean. I think I have one or two in this presentation of portolan maps.
Okay.
So it is very important to gather information from the travelers and put it on paper.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Very interesting how many people they must have talked to. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, because it's such a big trade route. It was one of the greatest trade routes in world history. So imagine all the information you're getting from so many different people,
different cultures too.
Think about it.
And when the larger travelers started going to the Far East for the spices, etc., the Dutch started that. They drew their maps, and those maps, particularly in Barcelona, in Catalonia, etc., those maps that were drawn by the Portuguese and by the Dutch were so secret that the map was kept in the king's treasury.
Wow!
And only a copy was given to a captain that had to travel
I was about to say this had to do with shipping, because we know the Portuguese, the Spaniards, and the Dutch were big. You know, their armadas, their fleets were massive. According to mainstream history. You know.
Yeah, they prepared maps, and the maps on the ship was kept in the captain's cabin in a special wooden box that had lead in it. So that when the pirates conquered the ship, the captain had to throw it in the water so that it would sink to the bottom.
Oh my God, that's amazing!
Oh, they thought of how to preserve it, basically. How to
booby trapped it.
Yeah.
Trade routes were secret. Nobody should know about it because of competition.
It's amazing.
These are different stories related to maps.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
Okay. Next slide.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, you see, I mentioned the Caspian Sea, shape of the Caspian Sea.
Yeah.
It's completely changed. It is the real shape now.
Yeah.
1731. The map was drawn by the French during 1731. The pink area is called Shirvan, the region that the Republic of Azerbaijan is now. And it has different khanats, Persian Muslim khanats in it. The one underlined red is Armenia. Again, not independent country, but Armenians lived in this land.
A region. Occupied region.
Below that, there are two lakes shown, One is Lake Urmia, the other is Lake Van. The shapes of the lake are not correct. And the cartographer has heard that both of these lakes have salty water. Therefore, he has thought that they must be connected with the river to each other, while they're
Okay.
100 kilometers apart, in fact. But
Misinformation.
above those, underlined in light blue, this is Atropatene, Azerbaijan. Atropatene was the name of the country in the old days, and which gradually changed to Azerbaijan.
Yeah, we've
South
mentioned
Arax River.
Atropatene a lot.
South of the Arax River. Now let's go back to the name Azerbaijan, Atropatene, etc.
Yeah.
That region, south, north, and northeast, northwestern part of Iran, used to be called Lesser Media. Media is the name of the Median kingdom. Lesser Media looks smaller part of Media. During the attacks of the Alexander the Great, the local general Atropat defended the region, and Alexander the Great couldn't manage to conquer Media. He didn't conquer Media. He bypassed it. After the death of Alexander, of the Atropat, after 200 years, the people of Atropat and the region, Lesser Media, decided to call their country with the name of the hero that had protected them, Atropat. The name was given during the first century, second century, was Atropat, and Atropatene, the land of Atropat. In Armenia, we still use that name, Aterpatakan.
Aterpatakan, yeah.
But when the Arab conquered the region, you know, the Arabs, there's the different letters don't exist. They're interchangeable with others. So Atropaten became Atropagen, Aderbagen, Aderbigan, Azerbaijan. Evolved because of the language.
Yeah.
The name Azerbaijan comes from the original Atropat.
Atropat, yeah.
Atropatene, which actually sounds better, in my opinion.
Well, actually, when in 1918, the newly found Muslim Republic called itself Azerbaijan, the Iranian government complained that this is the name of our province. This should not be called. You're aware of that, and the name should not belong there.
Yes, I actually mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned that on our last episode. Sorry to cut you off. Was that we mentioned this because we were talking about the Urartu, and again somehow we ended up they petitioned to them saying like, what are you guys doing here? Like, you can't just take our name and create a new country.
And now they're trying. Well, if it serves me correctly, I think they're trying to not petition, but they're trying to regain the lands, the province.
Yes, the Republic of Azerbaijan has a TV station and a number of radio stations beamed to Iranian side, saying, "You are our brothers. You should come and join us. Leave Iran and join us." In 1946, after the Second World War, in Iranian Azerbaijan, the communists, the Russians, organized a new party called Democratic Party, and that Democratic Party, after the end of the World War II, was planning to be annexed with Soviet Azerbaijan. Fortunately, the Iranian government found out about these tricks, and they stopped them, pushing the Russians out. It was diplomacy, not power, not by force that the Russians left the area. The prime minister at the time, Rouben Galichian, promised Russians all the oil in the Atropatene, in Iranian Azerbaijan, to be given to Russian control, to be under Russian control. And he persuaded Russians to leave so that he can take this to the parliament. The Russians left, and he took it to the parliament and advised his own countrymen, his own colleagues, to vote against it. The end of the day, that proposal didn't pass the Majlis, Iranian Majlis parliament. And Rouben said, I did my best, but the people didn't accept it. So what can I do? So that's how the Soviets left Iranian Azerbaijan in 1947, the year after the war.
Wow.
That's
And they're still trying.
Yeah.
And they're still trying. Yeah, and they're still trying.
Yeah, they're still trying. And Aliyev, why do you think Aliyev has signed an agreement with the Iranian to have a direct route through Azerbaijan to Iran and the Iranian railways south of the Persian Gulf?
Yeah.
They have built their own railways up to the point that Iran hasn't done anything regarding what 100 miles that Iran has to construct. Because Azerbaijan is not a reliable partner. Azerbaijan on one side says we're partners, we want to trade together. On the other side, he says that the province, your northwestern province, is ours, should belong to us. This is the reason.
I mean, they're a persistent bunch. I mean, they claim everything right and left.
It's not a matter of persistence. It seemed like it's like the.
Well, I mean, it is
brainless spoiled. It's like the brainless spoiled child that just doesn't understand any logic whatsoever. They just keep going
with falsified information.
A little more detail about that later on.
Yeah.
Let's continue.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next slide.
This is the map of the war in 1877 between Russia and the Ottoman Empire. It's an Ottoman map made in Turkey, Ottoman Turkey. And the translations, with the names are in Turkey, the translations are done it in red. For instance, the Ottoman Empire extends from Greece to the Arabian Peninsula. But Anatolia, if you see in the middle there, that Anatolia refers to only the peninsula, the part that is between the two seas, which was the name like that all the time. Now, Anatolia, let's go back to the map. On the map, you see from Mush to Karabakh, it says Armenia. That's a Turkish map. And south of Lake Van, near the south of Diyarbakir, it says Kurdistan. And Iran, on the name Iran, just above a little, I haven't underlined it, but it says Azerbaijan inside Iran. And where Baku is, it says Shirvan, letter.
And this is 1877. I mean, it's not that
long ago. No.
No, the Turks said there is no Azerbaijan north of Araks River.
It's right before the pogroms.
Yeah.
Right before the pogroms.
20 years before that started.
Yeah.
15 years. Yeah. So now, in order to remove that name Armenia from their own land, Turks have started calling the whole of their country Anatolia. From Aegean Sea to Iranian border. By the way, Anatolia means east in Greek. When the Byzantine Empire was founded in Constantinople, they occupied the peninsula, they conquered the peninsula, and they called it Anatolia, Eastern Territories.
Yeah, for Greek, it would be east.
And in the beginning, when the Turks wanted to change the name and remove the name of Armenia from Armenian Highlands, they called the region eastern part of Turkey Doğu Anadolu. Doğu in Turkish means east. Anatolia in Greek means east. In other words, this name became east of east.
East of east, yeah.
Yeah. Which later
the Azerbaijani called it east of east of east.
So this is the games they play on the changing name.
Yeah.
So the name of Armenian Highland doesn't appear in Turkey. It says Anatolian Highland.
Oh, why would it? I mean,
anyway, let's go. Let's continue.
All right. Next slide.
Now, it's a political thing, this one. During the 19th century, the pan-Turkist movement began in Russia, mainly in Russia and Kazakhstan area and Tatarstan, what they called it. It meant the purpose was to join Turkic-speaking countries, which here are shown in yellow, together and form a belt of Turkish-speaking countries.
Yeah.
That was the aim. Now, if we look at the eastern part of Turkey, there's an area pink, which was mainly populated by Armenians and Assyrians and the Greeks. So during the 1915 genocide, Turkey cleansed them, cleared that, and that obstacle was removed. However, the red part, Armenia, still exists. It's blocking the continuation of the pan-Turkic countries.
Till
This
day.
is the reason that
almost like the cornerstone, I guess.
Yeah, it is a cornerstone because Iran wouldn't allow them to include Iranian Azerbaijan in their land. So Armenia is blocking in the middle like a wedge. It's stuck in the belt, cutting it into two. This is the reason that those genocides were perpetrated. This is the reason that Azerbaijan wants to have the Sionic corridor.
Yeah.
To make a road connecting to east and west of the Turkish-speaking countries.
Yeah, it's speaking politically. It starts.
The leader of the Grey Wolves movement, which began in 1968 in Turkey and follows this dream, was presented Mr. Erdogan last October with this map, saying this is our aim to achieve.
And yeah, we saw those posts.
Yeah,
you saw the presentation to Mr. Erdogan. Anyway, let's continue and come back to the beginning of our era. Now, when I spoke about the genocide, you see the areas that it was perpetrated with yellow, so that to cleanse the Armenians, so that the belt can be continued. Next one.
Okay.
Now, Armenia, the region of Armenia was formed in 1917 before the Republic, and it covered this. It was called the Armenian Commission. The local commission was it called. It included all these maps, including those with circled with green, blue, and yellow. This was Armenia, supposed to be Armenia, 1917-18. Next one.
Now, before we go to the next one, when you say this is supposed to be Armenia, was this based?
It began like this.
By whom?
But in 1920, this green area circled by green, was given to Turkey as a present by Lenin.
The cars, right?
Cars and Moscow agreements. They gave it to Lenin. They just handed it over.
My question was, this map, as we're looking at it, was it formed by, like, say, the League of Nations or some kind of the U.S.? Because I know there's also the Wilsonian map that is always out there. You know, we've had episodes about that as well.
Yeah, this map was made by historians who, studying the history, came to this conclusion that this was the area that was under Armenian control in 1917, beginning of 1918.
Yeah, okay.
But it didn't last long. At all.
We know it didn't last long.
Let's go to the next map, which was here, those two areas underlined, Nakhichevan and the mountainous Karabakh. In July of 1921, Stalin decided to give it to Azerbaijan. In November of 1920, when Armenia became communist, all these disputed territories, were disputed. Azerbaijani parliament decided that these disputed territories should belong to Armenia because they have mainly Armenian population and be included in the region of Armenia, in the Soviet Armenia.
Wait, this is the Azerbaijani parliament?
Yeah, which is
yes, Azerbaijan. It was announced in the newspapers, etc., in Moscow, in Baku, in Yerevan. In my invention of history, the copies of the letters and other announcements can be seen. And then that was November 30th, 1920. In July of 1921, Stalin went to Baku and approved this decision first. And evening of the 4th of July, had a closed-door meetings with the Caucasian Bureau members, and the next morning announced that these territories should belong to Azerbaijan, not Armenia. This is the beginning of all the troubles. Stalin's decision on the 5th of July, 1921.
Man, don't I wish I was a fly on the wall during that?
And when it says Mountainous Karabakh, it isn't only today's Artsakh. It includes Kashatagh, Lachin, and parts of Zangezur, eastern Zangezur. All these were given to Azerbaijan by a decision of Stalin made on the 4th of July, announced on 5th of July, 1921.
God, I mean,
why? What
not that I want to get involved in the politics of it, but I'm looking at this map right now. Makes me wonder the conversations that were had between Iran, Azerbaijan, the Soviet Union at the time, right? Because look, Syunik separates Nakhichevan and Mountainous Karabakh.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't? It's just a question, a hypothetical question. Why wouldn't Stalin let Azerbaijan connect all the way through? What did Iran have to do with it? What did the Soviet Union have to do with it? Trade route, whatnot. Just questions. Yeah. I don't know the full answer.
Nezhde had something to do with that too.
Yes. That besides that, but think about the 4 or 5 different directions of that piece of land.
Yeah.
That could have swayed things. Let's say we're talking over 100 years.
Well, I'm sure Iran still didn't want their lifeline to be cut off.
But again, think about the political nature of the conversations.
Yeah.
That was going, the jostling that was going on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
See that we always come late to things.
Yeah. In hindsight.
Hindsight, it's, should have done something, should have been done. But the thing is that Nakhichevan, the one at the bottom part of it, Nakhichevan, in the Treaty of Kars and Moscow, has been given the guarantee of not going to be transferred to another country except with the agreement of Turkey.
Yeah.
So this is little things that reflect in the agreements.
Elena was talking about that.
Has not still ratified. Therefore, Turkey was trying to get Armenia ratified the Treaty of Kars and Moscow a few years back, when there was an agreement that we could come together, and the football politics, we have to say, that didn't work out because Armenia extended that we're not going to sign it yet.
Now, is it true that the Treaty of Kars expires next year, 2023?
No, it expires. No, there's no expiration date, expiry date on the treaty.
Yeah, well,
no, I thought that the Kars area that was given, it was only for like 100 years or something like that, or.
I mean, I can't imagine there being
like a
statute of limitations or something like this on
the agreement. Through that, there is no time limit. There's no time limit.
All right.
Yeah, but like what would be resolved or what would change?
But like many other governments, when they come to power, we disregard of the previous agreements. They could announce.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It all depends on the regime.
To all of you who are joining us live, we see your comments, we see your questions. Later on after this presentation, we'll definitely ask your questions to Baron Rouben. Okay, next map.
Now, the Soviet Union, when it was formed, they started drawing maps of their republics. And in 1920 to 23, the Soviet general staff, produced detailed maps of the regions of the various republics, including Armenia and Azerbaijan. Those maps are kept in Moscow, and Armenians have never seen those maps. In other words, they've done the border maps for Armenia, but we haven't seen it. And Mr. Putin last October announced that during the delimitation and
Demarcation.
Yeah.
Demarcation comes like, yeah, delimitation, demarcation, the discussions and meetings. Russia, together with Azerbaijan and Armenia, Russia should also be present because we have maps that nobody else has, referring to this 1920s map, which they haven't given neither to us nor to Azerbaijanis. Now, in 1926, this map appeared in the first Soviet Great Encyclopedia, and also map of Azerbaijan appeared there as well. This map is underneath, it is approved by NKVD, Internal Security. And in Soviet Union, if you want to print a map, you have to have the approval of various ministries to print that.
I'm sure.
This has appeared, therefore, my deduction is that this map is based on the earlier 1920-23 maps that Soviet General Staff has produced, and this is the map of Armenia. Here, Armenia has 31,000 square kilometers area. If you see the blue arrow on the right is Artsakh. We have a common border.
Yeah.
Which was River Agavnu runs through it. That common border divides.
Yeah.
Only
looks like a four-way split.
Later on, the bit on the right side of the river was taken up by Azerbaijan in order to cut Armenia from Artsakh. Those yellow areas marked on the map were later on, due to different reasons, given to Azerbaijan. Now,
Are these the enclaves they keep mentioning?
Yeah, the enclaves are not here on this map. On these maps, on any map until 1936, there were no enclaves. They appeared some appeared 1936, and the last one, Tigranashen, 1940. I think I've got some images of those as well. Now, this map shows that Armenian territory was 31,000 square kilometers. There is no enclave in Armenia. This is the basis. This map has the basis in the Soviet military maps. Therefore, we should aim today to end up with borders which this map shows. We should aim in our delimitation and demarcation discussions.
Yeah.
But we have to start from somewhere. Next map. I mentioned that due to the various reasons, some pieces of land were given to Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
Now, this red one between Artsakh and Armenia is a region that Azerbaijan announced that he's going to form a new province called Red Kurdistan. They announced it in 1923. They started working on it, but they said, we want to bring all the Kurds living in Azerbaijan to this area so that they'll be together in Red Kurdistan. But the thing is that they keep sheep, and there's not enough grazing land for the sheep in this mountainous region. Therefore, in various decisions of the Caucasian Bureau, etc., pieces of land, grazing land, fields, forests, etc., from Armenia were taken, given to Azerbaijan for Red Kurdistan province. However, in 1933, the formation of this province was annulled. In other words, it didn't happen. But the lands allocated for this region, for the reason of Kurds living there, were not returned to the original owners, Armenians, but they were taken up by Azerbaijan.
Makes you wonder. I mean, if it must have been.
This is something that just to the international, we should take to International Court of Justice. You took these pieces of land for a purpose which doesn't exist. That wasn't realized. Therefore, it should be back to us. And furthermore, the Azerbaijani constitution says, and Article 2, it says, Republic of Azerbaijan is the heir of the 1920 Republic of Independent Azerbaijan. We do not recognize any Soviet borders, right?
Yeah.
In 1920, there was, on the maps of the region, there was no enclave. Therefore, if Azerbaijan claims an enclave, it goes against its own constitution. And these areas were given to them by the Soviets. Since they were given by the Soviets, you do not accept Soviet rules, you should give them back to Armenia as well. These are legal points international law should take care of. There are lots of things to be studied in the archives to achieve to this end. It's a lengthy road.
Rouben, I want to ask you a question in terms of this. Is there anything, since the collapse of the Soviet Union, have there been any attempts in trying to, besides the obvious that we know of, legally, any attempts at trying to take these lands back, the one highlighted in red? Legal attempts.
We have done what we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
During the time that we had occupied, as they said, liberated those areas after the collapse of the Soviet Union, we could do something. We should have done something to take back the lands because of this reasoning.
Legally.
Legally, we should have applied. We should have referred to the International Court, saying legally that belongs to us with these parts are should ours. We have not done anything during the 25 years after the Soviet Union, after independence. We have not done anything in trying to keep these Armenian lands, Armenian borders, bring them back to whatever they originally were, and neither we did anything militarily to improve the standard of our army.
Yeah.
Instead, our generals, our rulers built palaces for themselves, collected wealth, etc. And now they come back and say that we should come back to power and continue what we were doing.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We're always late. We should have done things that we didn't do. Always when they speak that what happened that from those greater Armenia, only this part is left. What did we do to prevent? What did we do to come to this? I always replied, what we should have done and didn't do. This is the reason that this has happened.
Well, I mean, this is a completely different topic that we can get involved really deep into it. But obviously, we all know the reasons why they didn't do it, and it's unfortunate. And now we're paying the price.
Yeah. Now let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Not many left. The areas shown blue are the ones that were given to Azerbaijan from Armenian territory and also from Artsakh territories. Okay, next one. This is a map of the enclaves inside Armenia and in Azerbaijan. The blue one, the blue arrow, shows Artsakh, an Armenian enclave which is inside Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
And the two red ones on top are in the Tavush region, two Azeri enclaves in Armenia, which were established in 1936. And the green one at the bottom is the Tikranashen enclave, which was given to Azerbaijan in 1940. Now, except for Artsakh, there's no record of how and why were these areas given to Azerbaijan.
Yeah, I was about to ask.
I mean, is there proof of
how is this possible? How is this designated?
It appeared on Soviet maps, and that was all.
Somebody just drew it, moved the line, basically.
Wait, hold, Baron Rouben. The only thing that could come to mind is, were these some sort of strategic locations based on the dates that you're giving us? With, let's say, the Soviet Union housing military or something strategic.
I'll come to that.
Okay. Oh, I don't want to jump the gun. Okay.
Now, the blue enclave Artsakhan inside Azerbaijan is a remote corner of Azerbaijan that there's no roads, nothing connecting to it, to anything. So it's strategically unimportant.
Mm-hmm.
The green one sits on the Armenian highway going from Yerevan
Yeah.
to Goris, to Karabakh, to Iran, Megri, and Iran. If that road is cut, our lorries and buses could not travel to that area, to southern Armenia, because the bypassing roads are village roads so narrow that a lorry cannot go through it.
Wow.
The two red ones on top, on the right-hand side, it sits on the highway going to Azerbaijan, Kazakh. And the left one is a larger, I'll show in detail later. And that itself is, no, this one is the Artsakhan enclave. The blue circles sitting. The red is the Armenian highway going to Karabakh, etc.
Straight through the middle of it.
Right through the middle of it.
Yeah.
And the black line below is the Azeri border. Now, if you give the control, why should Soviet Union give Azerbaijan the control of Armenian highways? Is this strategically important or not important?
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. It's the intention of the Russians to keep control to Azerbaijan, who is their closest ally than Armenia. The next one. Next slide.
Yeah.
Now, this is the one, the two that I was mentioning. The one at the bottom right is Vakhudarlu enclave. The yellow road you see passes through it.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be stopped. But the left branch of the yellow road goes to the left. It doesn't pass through the enclave.
Yeah.
It passes through nearby. But these two wedge-shaped areas, the Azeri border in 1920 was the green line that runs along the river there between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Now is the black line. But in 1920s, it was the green line. So these below the green line, you see two wedge-shaped areas. It's a blank, empty land. Nothing grows there. Nothing goes there. Those two were given to Azerbaijan in order to cut the Armenian highways. In other words, these two, if Azeris sit there, they cut the connection line from Noyemberian to Tbilisi.
Yeah. Now, these enclaves that they gave, let's say, no Azerbaijani actually lives there, right?
No, lived. The Azerbaijanis lived there, so they lived in hundreds of other places in Armenia. There were 200 Azerbaijani majority villages in Armenia. Why didn't they give them to Armenia? And there are hundreds of Armenian living Azeris villages in Azerbaijan. And let's go to a larger extent. Artsakh should have been an Armenian enclave.
I mean, one would think, logically speaking, this has a lot to do with resources. No?
Resources?
Yeah.
And to claim these things, you need to have some guts to come up in the international platforms and talk about this. I don't know how our politicians do that.
It's such an confusing song and dance.
It is. That's why we are here today.
Yeah.
So at the time in 1920s, when the regions were handed over to Azerbaijan, there were opposition from Armenian side. For instance, one of our famous writers, Axel Bakuns from Goris, he was part of one of the commissions that was giving lands to Azerbaijan. He opposed them. They wouldn't sign the minutes of the meetings. We know what happened to it after a couple of years. He was shot in our Yerevan prison. Anyway, This was Soviet rule. So next.
I don't even know how to respond to these.
In between 1920 and 1930 to in 1970, Soviet Union drew military maps. This black line is the border between Azerbaijan and Armenia. On the right, on the top is Azerbaijan. On the left bottom is Armenia. This is the Sevlich, Black Lake region. Again, Black Lake. It's large lake because there are two, one and small, small and large. The large one is called Black Lake, Kara Su. Kara in Persian, in Turkish, black. In all the Azeri language, large.
Yeah.
So this black line was approved by the Azeri and Armenian representatives as the region with as the border between the two countries in 1969 and 70, and the Ministry of I think the next slide does show that. Can you go to the next?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see on the top map, this is the region. The blue is the lake. The line goes through the little segment on the top of the lake.
On the top of it, yeah.
And then continues the one that I showed. It has the signatures of both Armenian and Azeri delegations, representatives rather. The map below.
This is 1971. I mean, 1970.
70, yes.
70.
And it was valid until 1990, the demise of the Soviet Union. The map below was shown to our border guard by Azeris, saying this is the map, the border. You see on the left, it extends well below the name.
Well below it, yeah.
On the left, there's also a bulge coming into territorial, Ishkhanasar. They produced these maps, falsified the maps, and say these are the borders, not the one above. And wow. I don't know if our soldiers have the original, actual one with their signatures and stamps to show them that these are not one. This is the region.
I mean, like, who made this decision? Like,
Azerbaijan.
Yeah, sure, but I'm asking rhetorically because it almost feels like somebody just took a map to a marker, decided to prove it as something that is now doctrine.
Yeah.
Any height that can be strategic was taken up by Azerbaijan along this border.
Oh, my goodness!
If you come back to the other slide.
Okay.
No, the back.
Oh, the back one. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Return.
Okay.
See, the black line is the actual border signed by both, and the red one is the one that they come up with.
Wow. This is unbelievable, man. Oh my God.
This map is actually a copy of the Soviet military map that have added the red on it, which is secret. Nobody should see it. They have it, but nobody is allowed to see it. But someone has put all these maps on the internet. So
cat's out of the bag, huh?
This is unbelievable.
Wow.
See? This is the thing, sort of things has happened all around where Azerbaijan has come to Georgia, says this is our land. Sotk, this is our land. They've drawn the map and they're coming forward.
Now, is our government or military, are they fighting back with this as far as, hey, wait a minute, we have these?
What I know in the beginning when they came to Sevlich, the Black Lake, our forces were ordered not to shoot. Mm-hmm. So there were scuffles. There were fights between Azeri and Armenian soldiers, but because the Azeris had the gun, could use it, and the Armenians were not allowed. Ministry of Defense ordered them not to shoot because we don't want this to escalate to another war.
I mean,
all for the sake of diplomacy.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let's go to.
Now, there's a policy of Azerbaijan since it was established in 1918. That I'll read it for you because I haven't included there. The Soviet Union expected that each country and each republic should have its own unique history, culture, and language. This is the Soviet Union. It was announced in the 1930s. To achieve this, the Azerbaijani authorities found out how to make individual history and culture for their newly born country. If you don't have a past, how can you make it your individual history and purpose? One, they claim that Caucasian Albanians were their ancestors in order to appropriate the Christian monuments. And when they're talking to Western powers, they said, we are heirs of the Albanians who built all these churches. But they forget that those churches were built during the 12th to 16th, 18th centuries, while the Albanians had converted into Islam. Did the Islamic Albanians build the churches? And another thing, when they claim that they're heirs of our Albanians to Western powers, when they speak to Turkey, to Erdogan, they said, we are the same, we're the same race divided into the two countries, same people. We're both always Turks. He cannot make any decision for what his ancestry is. It depends what suits, and it changes from one to the other.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard all the claims, you know.
It's common knowledge with the claims.
They also say that the indigenous people living, the Armenians, they came there in 1828 when the Russian forces brought them from Iran.
Yeah. I mean, it's comical at this point.
It is comical for people who know about it, but for a European who doesn't know anything, for an American doesn't know anything,
it's new news.
It's new. But it's true. It can be true unless somebody writes something against it. That's why I started this. In Soviet times, there were these allegations were present. Azerbaijan is saying the Armenians are newcomers. Our historians wrote articles against them, but they wrote in Armenian, and one or two were translated into Russian.
Yeah.
But Azeris were printing books in English and distributing it. No. Yeah. Who in the West reads Armenian or Russian literature? Nobody.
Well, that's the biggest problem with us. I mean, we have some amazing historical books in Armenia, but no one ever translated it. You know, so nobody reads it, nobody knows about it. Only we. I mean, that's the biggest problem with our community, especially in the diaspora. Everything that we do, we keep it within our our circle,
and you're not trying to introduce it to other people.
It's not introduced to other people. And then part of us is like, I feel like we didn't realize what Azerbaijan is doing. We didn't realize what they're doing. We were just going along with our lives.
Like Barun and Rouben said, we've arrived late to everything.
In
2002, when I was drafting my book, Historic Maps of Armenia, where I proved that there's no Azerbaijan north of Arak River until 1918, I took the book to one of the top historians in the university here, who's a well-known person, Vic and Galichian. I said, I'm preparing this book. He said that you're wasting your time. Everybody knows that these are Armenian. Why do you waste time with writing a book? Wasting money printing it. I said, nobody knows in the West. You may know here, but nobody in the West knows about it. Unless you write something against it, you're exposing the truth. Everybody will believe that. And then he said, I'd like to edit your book. I said, no, thank you. It's my book.
When people look at maps now, Google Maps. Think about it. It's like everybody views an article. You don't read the article. You just look at the heading and then get your information from the heading without reading the article, and you move on to the next article. Read the heading. It's the same thing as looking at maps. Think about it. They'll look at a map. These are the borders. Oh, this is Azerbaijan. Oh, this is blah, 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 so-and-so place. They'll never think about, okay, wait a minute. Maps have shifted. The world has changed over 50 years, 100 years, 300 years. Who occupied these areas prior to this? They don't critically think anymore.
Azerbaijan understands this. That's why they lobby, especially in the U.S., heavily throughout the world.
They spend millions lobbying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Their budget for literature, printing literature in English, about 15 years ago, was $7 million a year. At the same time, I was in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Armenia, who has publications department. He said, what is your budget? $70,000.
Oh my God.
The fraction. Fraction.
100 of it. Anyway, let's go back to it. And the third thing that in Azerbaijan they're implementing is if you can appropriate any monument, do it. If you cannot do it, you destroy it. Now, these on the screen is the medieval cemetery in Julfa. Mm-hmm. On the left top, you can see the thousands of khachkars that existed there in 1905.
It's a little bit bigger.
From about 10,000 khachkars, the Russian army used 5,000 to use as a railway sleepers when they were constructing the railway line there. But 5,000 were left up to 1995, 96. Those two figures on top on the right are the images in 96. Mm-hmm. Then in 97, Azerbaijanis came in and started breaking the khachkars, toppling them over, breaking. Yeah. And the army was brought to break them by sledgehammers. And on the right, you can see they were dumping into the Araks River the bits of stone. And today, it is military ground, maneuver ground, that area. Now, when the destruction had begun, the German foreign ministry wrote to the Azerbaijani ambassador, asking, "We've heard about their damage to Armenian monastery and their monuments being done there, the cemetery. Could you explain it, please?" And after a couple of months, the reply came, said, no damage has been done there. It's on a strategic location because there's lots of earthquake in that area. Because of the earthquake, all the khachkars have been toppled over, right? And these, by the way, these are not Armenian, these are Albanian, Azerbaijani Albanian. After 3 years, they start removing them. If they're your own monuments, why do you destroy them?
Yeah, how are you respecting your ancestors?
This is the sort of policy. Here is the pictures taken from Iranian side while they were doing it. There's the videos also of this.
Yeah, we've seen
Next picture.
There we go.
Okay.
In 2007, they produced a book, which you can see on the right, The Monuments of Western Azerbaijan. This is the French from the French book that they've copied. It includes the map of Armenia. It says the map of the homeland of the Oghuz Turks, which today is called Armenia, but it was the land of the Turks. And the book
published in English.
In English, German, French, even Arabic. There was 7 languages published and distributed in book fairs. It's a big, large book. It's got 130 pages. Each page contains, a couple of pages contain a Armenian monument, such as Echmiadzin Church, saying Turkish Christian Temple. Urartu, Turkish, Garni, Turkish temple. Everything is Turkish, Albanian, etc. The whole thought, the whole book. Next slide shows a couple of examples. Okay. On top is Date Monastery. It says Turkish monastery. Below you can see it. On the left is Havarzin, on the right is Goshavank. All these are Turkish Christian temples.
Turkish Christian?
Yeah, who are Christian Turks? We're yet to find out. Okay. Next one. Repsime, Zvartnots on the top. And Khorvirab, also Turkish temple.
Really?
Yes.
I feel like
what's in the air they're breathing? What's in the air they're breathing? I'm curious.
It's like someone who's standing there is so stupid. Like you don't know what to do to, like whatever you do, it's not going to fix it.
It's not.
It's like, oh my God, it's unbelievable.
It's not stupidity. It's the people up top know the truth. They just need to convince the masses that that
Yeah,
does not
exactly.
exist. It's like, listen. I'm not, again, nobody, please, I need to give this disclaimer. We've talked about this off camera, obviously. There's a lot of people that have talked about Aliyev being this intelligent human being, yada yada yada, right? We've all heard this rhetoric. We know he knows the truth. We know Erdogan knows the truth. We know a lot of people in the area
Oh
know
yeah.
the truth. They just need to convince their masses, or else they're
I
going to
don't know.
lose control.
I don't think Aliyev knows the truth because he's one of
Really?
the institutions where there are maps showing the region.
Oh, but
And
you don't think
there
he
was
was going along with it?
no, he was looking at the map of medieval times, of early medieval times of the region.
Okay.
And he saw the names of Ottoman Empire, Persian
Mm-hmm.
Empire, etc. He says, "Where is Azerbaijan? There's a video of that. Why haven't you shown Azerbaijan?" Azerbaijan was never there. And in
Ugh.
2005, he announced in the Academy of Sciences that I suggest that all our historians and specialists concentrate their effort to prove that Armenians have not existed in this region. After 3 years, he gave out cash prizes to those scientists who've proven that the Armenians didn't exist here.
I
This
think the
is
biggest problem also is us Armenians, diaspora or even Armenia. I think we've been so occupied with our own, I guess call it vanity, whatever,
Yeah.
but that we didn't pay attention to what the enemy was doing behind us. And we've mentioned this so many times, Bano Ruben, on our show about how we have multi-billionaires, successful Armenians who will waste money on the dumbest things in the world and will never invest in this type of educational, like you said, the books being translated. We have a fan who's actually going to translate one of what's her name? I keep forgetting. Anna. It was Anna, right?
Yeah.
Anna.
Anna.
She's in
Forgot her
Armenia right
last
now.
name.
Yeah. And she's translating things book. My God, why am I stumbling?
Angela Tedyan.
Angela Telian, yeah, Telian's book, and she just passion project. She contacted her and she went there and she's translating it into English and they're going to try to obviously publish it here in the U.S. This should be almost like warfare. We should be doing this on everything because we're sitting here and they are constantly putting these falsified books out there,
Yeah,
and we
this
don't
is a
see
part
it.
of the
They're
lobby.
publishing it in Europe and even in the US or
yeah.
Canada, and we're not seeing it because we're not paying attention.
Well, I had
No.
first-standing experience on those. One of these first historic maps of Armenia I published in Armenian and Russian also. So I wrote to Mr. Abrahamian, the richest Armenian in Moscow, saying that I'm writing this book. I've written this book in English, translated to the English. It proves that Azerbaijan didn't exist. It shows Armenia through the ages how it came about. A friend of his said, "Yet you send it to him; he will take care of it. Doesn't matter. It's $20,000 to publish the book in Russia on a coffee table book, that sort of a thing. It's
Mhm.
nothing." So I I sent him a copy of the English version, large book. It's about 12 inches by 11 by 13 inches, large book, colored book, and with a letter explaining that the Russian version needs to. So I think will be useful for Russians to know this as well. No reply. After about 3 months, I saw his friend who said, "No, no, he probably hasn't received it. Give me a copy. I will hand carry it and give it to him." I've never heard from him. Didn't even bother to say, "No, thank you. I don't have money for this sort of thing." While our politicians, one of the Sergis Nalbandian, the foreign minister, where I sent his invention of history book to him, saying, "Please have a look at it. This has interesting information." After 2 weeks, I called his office. Uh, I knew the secretary. The secretary told me that I've asked him to have a look and let you know. He told me I don't have time to read these sort of things.
Wow.
Wow.
This is the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
What's his name again?
You don't have time to do these things, huh?
Albanyan.
Huh.
Previously, when Oskanyan was the prime minister, he asked me to give as many of these books to him so that he could give to the foreign guests, distribute to the foreign guests.
Mm-hmm.
And in his time, 1,500 copies of the abridged version was purchased by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to be handed out. When this guy came, this was his answer. So I don't have time for this.
Now, is this books still available? Could it be purchased?
Yes, but the original, the old version, no, these books have been sold out. Historic maps of Armenia, there are few odd copies secondhand we can find in Amazon.
Okay.
But the abridged version has, I had a print run of about 4,000. I have left a few only.
Okay. Are you planning to republish any of them, or
if somebody gives the money? Yes, if somebody provides the funds, because I'm a retired person living on a retirement salary.
Okay, well, we'll make some calls.
Yeah, and
the English version. I'm curious about the English version because we need to get this in the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
You go to my website, RoubenGalichian.com, and all the books are there, and it's free download. Have a look at them.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we'll definitely
time to start
reach out to
distributing
to everybody we know.
Seriously,
get the minions going.
Yeah, we need some soldiers, guys. Who's down to volunteer?
I mean, right now, Elena is saying, how much does he need?
Somebody asking, how much do you need?
Off camera, guys. Off camera. We'll put you through with Elena. Elena is an amazing human being. She has
a lot of knowledge herself.
She does so much for our cause. So, okay, we definitely have some questions coming up. I'm sure you can see the chat on the side.
What's the next slide? I think is the last one.
Two more slides.
Two more slides.
This is just an aerial photograph of the Ararat Mountains with Armenia in the background. It looks very peaceful from space. It's 20 kilometers up. And the last one is image shows my books that I've published so far.
Yeah.
In different languages.
Okay. How many books in total? Let me see.
22 if each language book is counted separately. I think 22, 23.
22. Wow. That is amazing. And this is all in the past 20 years, I want to say, right?
Started 2004, the first book.
Okay,
guys, this is a treasure trove of information. Start looking into these things.
Yeah,
really. I don't know if you've ever caught yourself staring at maps. I know I have in my lifetime, plenty of times. Maybe not to the level of Baron Rouben, but this is unbelievable information to hone in on,
Yeah. I wanted to ask you.
My last book is sort of a summary, a gross summary of all these things that I said we talked about today, and it's intended for to be used in schools as material for teaching, not a textbook, but material for teaching. The ministry approved it. I sent 2,000 copies of it to each school in Armenia. Every school in Armenia has copies, and the senior schools have 4 or 5 copies. So I've done it, and the English version is coming out this month.
Okay. Well, let us know.
Yeah, please let us know.
We
can possibly get it out to schools here.
Yeah. We'll definitely talk to some people.
We can talk to some people here.
Let's take some questions from the audio. To everybody who's joining us, if you have any questions, ask. But can you read that right there? That's from... I can't pronounce.
Okay, I've spoken to her before, so her question for the discussion later on. What can Mr. Galichian tell about demographic policies or strategies after changing borders and maps, moving people in and out to form majorities?
Well, this is what has been done during the Soviet times. The Soviets took certain races of people and moved from Crimea to Central Asia, Crimean Tatars, what they called, so that they get rid of of a problem. They encouraged Azeris to come to Armenia come to live in Armenia. There were over 200,000 Azeris living in Armenia until the fall of the Soviet Union, and almost all villages on the border with Azerbaijan were majority Azeri population. If Azerbaijan hadn't done anything regarding the war and fighting us, and the Soviet Union had continued to do what is destructive work, in 50 years' time, the Azerbaijanis would have been majority in Armenia. So this is type of demographic things that was happening, and I'm glad to say that it was stopped at a higher cost to us, the war, but this stopped, and none of these villages are occupied by Azeris now.
Yeah.
Inside Armenia.
Hmm.
And during Soviet times, pre-Soviet times, in Tsarist time, when the Transcaucasian area was occupied by Russians, every 10 years they changed the borders of the names of the provinces in order to ease their administration, never paying any attention to the demography of the system of the regions. Armenian regions were given to the Azerbaijanis. Azerbaijani region was given to Georgia. I don't know, these sort of things continued until 1918, until the independent republics were formed. But this is the general trend of the Russians' attitude towards demography.
Meg had a question. She was saying, I'm left wondering why Albanians stopped making their stone crosses and all these artifacts that left behind. Was it to become more European?
I think she was being sarcastic. Yeah, I responded to that a while ago.
Okay. All right. So
I think that's it. Guys, you have any more questions?
Yeah.
We had one question.
That's it? Come
Really?
on. I wanted to ask you about the book, The Invention of History, which is Azerbaijan, Armenia, and showcasing, I guess, the documents, the culture and history of Nagorno-Karabakh. Can you give us like a little bit of I guess, enlighten us about it? Like, what made you write it? And
the book, in the book, the old the name, first of all, the name Azerbaijan is discussed, where it come from. And then it's a policy of Azerbaijan to own everything and forget everything that existed there for centuries, etc. And I bring out quotes from the Azeri historians, etc. In the book that says the real facts, what they existed, and today how they are translated into modern Azerbaijan. You know, in Azerbaijan, the written language was Persian until almost end of the 19th century. They didn't have a written Turkish language. So everything was written in Persian. I'll give you...
Are you talking about the southern part of which was called Azerbaijan, or actual the one that they call Azerbaijan?
Actual Azerbaijan in Baku area, etc. There were historians that at the time wasn't called Azerbaijan. It was Shirvan and Shaki and I don't know, various in the regional names for them. And historians, for instance, there's a historian called Haji Karabakh. He's written history of Karabakh in 1844. In his book, which is in Persian, he writes in Persian. So I'm Armenian from Iran, so I can read this book. I read that he says about the city of Barda, which is in Turkish is Barda, in Iran, for Farsi. In the city of that, the population is mainly Armenian, which was one of the capitals of the old Shirvan. And took up the read to see what this book was translated, not translated, but transliterated into present Azeri. But because it was Farsi, it was also translated and written in the modern language. I found that in the Russian transliteration in 1958, it's exactly the same as written, that the Barda was considered mainly Armenian population. Then I took up the 1980 published book. That sentence has been removed from the translation. It cancelled. Any name of Armenian in the whole works has been removed and replaced by Albanian. And when I spoke about this to, I presented the book in the European Union in 2011 in Brussels. I presented the book among the audiences, about 150 people. There were 5 Azeris from embassy, and one was a student. The other were embassy workers. End of my talk, when I question answered it. And by the way, going back to the book, and he said repeatedly where our Iranian scholars have been described as Azeri scholars, not Iranian scholars. One is Tusi, who was one of the famous astronomers in Iran. Tus is a region in eastern Iran. So Tusi, since he built his observatory in Karabakh, in Maragha, which is Iranian Azerbaijan, he's Azeri, he's not Turkish, he's not Persian. This sort of thing goes on and on about historians, about Moses Karamgatvatsi, they say is an Azeri historian, not Armenian.
No, Moses Khorenatsi is Azeri?
No, Moses Khorenatsi, they hadn't dared to touch that one.
No, Moses Khorenatsi che.
I thought he said Moses.
No, not Khorenatsi. God, I have trouble pronouncing his last name. Aghabandatsi?
Aghabandatsi.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I
misheard. Yeah, I've read up on him. Yeah.
He's Azeri. He's not Armenian.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, I spoke about these things in the book with proofs, extracts from the books, etc., etc. And one of them got up and said that you say that our historians and politicians are lying. I said, you are lying. Your historians are lying. You yourself are lying. I said, okay, do you believe in your historians that have written in your own language in the 19th century? Yes, of course I do. I said, but you have a problem. They're written in Persian. You cannot read Persian. Nobody can read their old literature because they've changed the alphabet so many times that nobody has access to them.
It makes you wonder if it's done on purpose.
Anyway, one of them got up and said, my mother is from Iran. I said, good. I suggest you go to Academy of Arab Sciences, get a print of the microfiche of this Karabakhi's book, and go and buy this book, which is translated into your language today in Latin script, and compare them. And then you see who's lying, me or you. That was the first and last question from any Azeri I have encountered anywhere in the world, because I'm proving things by their own sources.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's almost like a trump card.
Yeah, of course it is. Are you kidding me? This is.
Go and have a look at it.
Wow,
unbelievable.
We have people asking. You should come here and do a TED talk. We can definitely talk about that.
Suggestions.
Yeah, suggestion. We have one question from Emily Wilson, who is one of our fans who joins us from Georgia in the United States.
Yeah.
She's asking, this may be a silly question, such thing as silly questions, but would Marash in historic Armenia have been in the region of considered to be Cilicia?
Marash is not in Cilicia, it's in Greater Armenia.
It's in Greater Armenia, okay. Well, that answered that question.
Adana
Adana is in Cilicia, yeah.
Elena asked a question, where can we find the map that proves our real borders?
There are no real borders. The borders change all the time politically. It depends what time you're talking about, what period you're talking about. In the Middle Ages, there were no borders drawn because By the time the borders were, if there was a border, by the time the cartographer drew the border,
Drew it.
it would have taken 10 years to do that, and the border would have changed.
Yeah.
And we had
Yeah.
to
Somebody would have presented new information, as we discussed
Yeah,
earlier.
well-
until the 14th, 15th century, maps did not contain borders, just names of the people who live there,
Yeah.
the name of the area.
To
No
add
borders.
to that, Meg had a good question. She asked, what would your first action be if you could change anything right now? Which map would you focus on, basically bringing it to life and moving forward, pushing it to with all this situation right now?
Well, I would oppose all these people that say that we should claim Armenian lands from Turkey and Greater Armenia, etc., etc. Well, I was asked this question a few years ago on a television show in Yerevan, and I tell them, let me ask you a question with a question. If we take the area of Mush, Van, Marash, all these areas, there is what 150,000 square kilometers into Armenia. This region would continue about 20 million, 25 million Kurds and 2 million Armenians, 3 million Armenians. What would you call that country? Kurdistan or Armenia?
Well, if you look at the if you call places based on people, it would be Kurdistan.
Yeah, it would be
Let's
Kurdistan.
be realistic. Let's be
Yeah.
realistic. What really is realistic is that, first of all, people of Artsakh should have their own, should make their own decision to be independent from Azerbaijan. We cannot force them to, because we have no say in their internal affairs, and politically we have withdrawn from Artsakh. These people, they are their own. So I'm talking about Armenia as a country of Armenia. Today, the realistic one is the map of 1926 Armenia that I showed you.
Okay.
If we can achieve that, go back to 31,000 square kilometers of our land, it will be the greatest achievements for this century.
Well, we have people commenting saying that we can call it United States of Greater Armenia, or just call it Western Armenia and let them live there. I mean, listen, I understand that, of course, if the genocide didn't happen, then a lot more Armenians would be there than 2 million. But it's, the Kurds might be more understandable. The Kurds know that that's where the Armenians were. So maybe some kind of a repatriation could happen, where people, there's a lot of people here in the U.S. that would love to go to that region and maybe buy a house and build, do things. So
it's saying these things and that they wish I would like to go, etc., is one thing, and doing it is another.
That's romanticizing.
Yeah.
We Armenians here, they plan to populate Karabakh, the sort of liberated lands, with Armenians, but it didn't happen.
Well, like Meg said, we have to be realistic.
Of course we have to be realistic.
Regarding leaving Kurds as a Kurdish minority and Kurdish majority in Armenia, etc., the first time the election comes, the citizens vote for a government who would be in the parliament, all Kurds, if it's a Greater Armenia. So we should be realistic with this. Yeah,
it's a very good point.
Yeah. See. Well, anything you want to mention? Anything coming up? Any lectures or but we know people can follow on your website, right? The website again was,
go onto his website, guys. Follow.
It was RoubenGalichian.com.
Yes.
Is that what it was?
RoubenGalichian.com is the website that you see my articles and my books. I don't put news things.
Yeah. Ooh, I forgot the
Facebook. Put my articles, my television interviews on the Facebook, on my Facebook. But
go give the man a follow.
Yeah, I've seen you recently on a lot of the Armenian news channels. Giving your thoughts at the current situation. 2 questions before we let you go. One, what are your thoughts of with the current situation? What do you see happening? What are your predictions? Um,
Well, it's a difficult time that we live in, very difficult decisions to make. But one of the important ones that I always have been saying is that CSTO, what Armenians call HUPC, the security uh, system with the Russians and Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, etc., etc., is not working because those countries have closer ties with Azerbaijan than Armenia. We should withdraw from that military pact. It doesn't mean that we cut the civil relations with Russia. No, we come out of the military pact. And Iran is announcing that he wants to have a military pact with Armenia, interested in the protection of borders, etc.
Yep.
And I'm glad to see that there are politicians now have closer relations with the West and the US that the previous one did. And there is a constant traveling between the officials from one country to the other, discussing details, discussing even arms sales today through other intermediaries, etc. So that we have paid hundreds of millions to Russia for armaments, for arms, which they have not delivered.
he mentioned that today.
They're not delivering. So this is the sort of thing we should stand up against. And my wish is that our politicians have enough guts to stand up on international media and talk about the real problems.
Yeah. That is very true.
That's a conundrum.
There's one question we always ask our guests, and it is our time machine question. Mm-hmm. And the question goes, if there was a time machine, if we ever build one, what time era in Armenian history would you like to go see?
I would like to go to the 12th, 13th century, go back and live in that culturally rich time.
Post Holy Wars or near the end of the Holy Wars? Yeah, the Crusades.
Yeah, nothing to do, not Crusaders.
No.
Greater area.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
That's the first time we've heard that answer.
Yeah. Well, so everybody usually says Urartu.
Urartu or Tigran Metz or it's or the very beginning.
Yeah. To see Haik Naupet.
Yeah, to see Haik Naupet. Yeah. Interesting.
Rouben, we cannot thank you enough for you doing this and being part of our little show here in the United States. We to everybody who joined us live, we appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
This audio version will be on all the podcast platforms worldwide. Those of you who will be listening to it, you might want to come watch the video to see all the maps. This was amazing.
Tell your friends.
And we will definitely reach out to you. We'll make some calls. Again, we're always, we're serious about this stuff. Yes. We try to help however we can to get our history out there in English. There's a reason why we do this show in English, is for not just Armenians to the new generation and the non-Armenians.
I'm all for it because we want to let the international audience know about it, not just ourselves.
Of course. We have a lot of non-Armenian listeners on the podcast platform, and we're thankful for them. And definitely, we want to get all these books translated and in your English versions out as well, to get them out over here in the diaspora in the West and so forth. But again, we'll talk to you off air about this stuff. But we wish you a great day, rest of your day in Yerevan.
Yeah.
And we wish you health. And thank you again for everything you've done for our culture and the information you've brought forth. It's so educational and amazing. It just opens your eyes.
By all means, thank you very much for inviting me to talk to you, and I wish more listeners for your programs. The more, the better.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah,
this information will get out.
Yes,
a lot more people.
please, if you are doing putting anything on YouTube, etc., send me links. Send me the link.
Absolutely.
Okay, we will do
Okay.
that. Well, this is on YouTube live right now,
Yeah.
so I'll forward you the after the recording. I'll send you the link so you can share it. And by the way, this is airing on your Facebook page as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, technology, you gotta love it.
Yeah. I never thought that we'd get here. When I was studying in university, we had one computer in the university. They occupied the whole of the basement area. And it did less than this watch is doing now.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day, and like I said, we'll talk to you off air.
Merci,
And
Paul.
yeah,
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
We'll keep in touch.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right.
That was awesome. Man.
That was great.
And yeah, you know, I have a thing for maps.
Mhm.
I always stare at maps a little too much sometimes, but man, listening to him get into the nitty-gritty about how this is all processed and how everything has changed and what meaning it had over time, it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was very educational. Thank you for
there's some
hanging out
ammo.
with us. It's a little bit past 11. I know in the East Coast it's a lot later. So again, guys, the reason we do these shows late because when our guests are from Armenia, obviously, there's like an 11-hour difference. So they have to wake up early to join us. But besides that, I want to mention a couple of things. So, last episode I mentioned about the movie Gates to Heaven with the producer Jivan Avatisian, which is going to be here in the States October 3rd. No, I'm sorry, not October, October 21st, I believe. But it's going to have its first release. It's going to be in Glendale. It's going to be in Orange County. It's going to be in Boston, Philadelphia, different states. We mentioned that on the last episode. But the good news is that he's going to be here on October 13th, and he's going to join us here in the studio. And it's going to be half split Armenian English. There will be somebody here with him to help with translation. But the reason we want him on the show is because he makes movies telling amazing stories about the Artsakh, the first war, and everything that happened. And now he has a new movie come in, which we'll talk about that as well, besides Gates to Heaven. So that will be 2 weeks from now. Next Thursday, we will be live again, 9 p.m., October 6th. And Haik Nazarian from Hosank will be joining us. He's an amazing guy who used to live here. He decided after the 2016 war to move to Armenia, live there. He actually joined the army, trained. He fought in the last war. So we wanted to talk to him. He has a lot of interesting ideas and about his, we don't want to call it a political party, but it's sort of a movement, Hosank, that he's kind of trying to get out there. Besides that, anything else?
No, this was awesome.
This is great.
Like this was me kind of nerding out internally too.
Yeah,
it really was, man. Because I'm telling you, there have been moments. I'm sure you guys can relate to this.
Yeah.
There have been moments where I've been stuck staring at like Google Maps.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm alone. I don't know.
Oh, again, I want to mention the LA showing of Desire to Live, the film by Mariam Avdisian. If you guys are interested, please send us a message through Instagram. Like I said, we're giving away 20 tickets. These have been purchased, paid for, so it will go to you. This will be at the Lemley Theater in Glendale, this Sunday, October 2nd at 12 noon. So either message us through Instagram or email pod at Mer Herosner, but that's pod at merherosner.com, just how you see our logo. Besides that, follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Mer Herosner. Support the show, guys. It's very important. It helps us to cover a lot of the cost here. We got a new Patreon yesterday, so it's growing. It's
is.
small. It's a small community, but it's growing. Yeah.
Baby steps.
Yeah, we like to grow organically. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that thumbs button. That helps a lot. Hit that like button and share it with your friends, family. Anything
Come
else?
on, guys. We're making history cool for you all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but we'll call it a night.
It is time to depart.
Yes, it is time to
It is
depart.
time to depart.
So, having said that, thank you everyone for joining us. As we always say, respect one another, love one another, and till the next episode, take care of yourselves.